Hello and welcome to the MineWreckers server. My name is Beardy the Elf and I am still here in the Winter Wonderland. The last time we built this racetrack we got these boats. Also, something I didn't show in the video was Top got some dogs, which seem to be gone, but there's a book left behind. I wonder if it's a message for me. Oh, hello polar bear. Dear Top. Okay, so it's not for me, but I'm going to keep reading anyway. There is a polar bear nearby, and we got scared, so we hid. Hope you don't mind. We don't know if the polar bear can read, so I've left instructions for where to find us in clues. Okay, interesting. Oh, it's from Woof and Barky. That reminds me. What's Weird and Bearded been doing all this time? I am in a void. I'm not going to be on the server for this episode. I have a farm to design. Specifically, I want to get a tree farm going, which is one of the more complex types of farm that you can get. So it's not about spawning mobs or anything. It's just about moving blocks around in the right way. So lots of tight redstone, lots of pistons. I've got a few days before this video comes out, so I figured let's design the farm and build it together, because I did have a farm, but it's broken, so I can't really build that on the server. So we're going to do this instead. Let's get some trees up so I can talk about what exactly we're going to be doing. We have a variety of trees which I'm going to talk through. I've also got some lime concrete, yellow concrete and red concrete in my inventory, just so that we can use a little bit of a traffic light system. They're in alphabetical order. Let's quickly run through them. So first of all, we have the acacia tree. It's got a couple of branches going off, which are going to be a bit of a pain to deal with, but hopefully I'll be able to sort that out. This is definitely one going into the farm. Next up, we have the azalea tree, which looks identical to a flowering azalea. It branches off, actually, I think a little bit further. I think it branches off up to 3 blocks away. However, the logs are oak. In terms of what the leaves drop, it drops azaleas and flowering azaleas, which we've already got from the moss farm. So there's really no need to do this one. Next up, the birch tree. Nice and simple. One wide trunk. Should be very easy to deal with. Absolutely. Then, technically it's a fungus, not a tree, but it definitely counts. We have the crimson fungus. I already have a farm for this. I've not built it yet. I built the warped fungus farm. The crimson fungus farm is going to be the same thing as that, so we don't need to worry about that one. Well, then dark oak. Dark oak only comes in a 2-wide variety. It's got offshoot branches. This is going to be a pain to deal with. I would like to get to it. It very much depends on how far I get with the 1-wide trees. So it's a maybe. It's a maybe. Flowering azalea, of course, the same as the azalea. We already get everything we need from it, so I'm good. Then the jungle. The jungle comes in 2 variety. We have the 1-wide variety and the 2-wide, which is massive and gets you a lot of logs. But the 1-wide is very easy to deal with, so we're going to include the jungle tree, but not the 2-wide jungle tree. And then there's the mangrove, which I'm not looking forward to. I'd love to figure out how to build a farm for this. I'm sure there are going to be ways that we can restrict its growth to make it easier to deal with. But again, we're going to do all of the 1-wide trees first, so this very much depends on how far through those we get. We have the oak tree, which again comes in 2 varieties. We've got the simple oak tree, and then we've got the fancy oak tree with logs all over the place. This is going to be the same as the jungle tree. We're going to do one, not the other. But we are going to have to find a way to restrict its growth so that it doesn't become this naturally. So note that. But yes to the regular oak tree. Spruce is exactly the same as the jungle. It's got the 1-wide and the 2-wide. And the 1-wide is just easier to deal with. We're getting Pearsons that high. Not going to be fun. And then finally we have the warped fungus, which we already have a farm for. So to start off, the spruce tree, the oak tree, the jungle tree, the birch, and the acacia. So I'm going to figure out some resources, and we're going to start thinking through how this is going to work. So I've set up a little something. Of course, I'm going to be doing this in stages. So that dirt block there is where we're going to be planting the trees, and then I've put a space around it. That's where I'd like to leave empty. I want the trees to be able to grow into that. so I can destroy their leaves. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is move this piston up to this block. I don't care about powering it yet, because I'm going to be doing that from either side. But for now, I just need to move it forward. So I'm going to get that set up and show how I'm making that work. I've replaced those blocks in the middle with leaves, and so far, this is nice and simple. Gets pushed out, and then it gets pulled back. So I'm going to build this up, and then that side is ready to go. Well, I've built it up to the full height. I have some glass in place. I've also brought the redstone round just so I can input it where we can easily see what's going on, but this is what's around the back. The redstone is super simple, and we just pull the lever, moves forwards, pull it again, it moves back. So next I need to get the sides in. I want to make sure when this is forwards that they are taking up the rest of the space. So obviously it's going to be moving past this, so as long as we can take up this space, I'll be happy. That's going to be a bit tricky. I may redo this. Well, it turns out I can make the side work in almost exactly the same way. That's not true. It is exactly the same way. So if we get the main bit out first, you'll notice this is one off the ground. That's because I'm likely to have some redstone running across here, and I don't want this disturbing any of it. So then we can push that forwards, it activates those bottom pistons, and then pull it back, and then pull the main one back. So now, all that's left to do is build this up, copy it over to the other side, and then I think, apart from timings, the main pistons will be in place. This is looking good and coming together nice and quickly. So I've brought the 3 levers out to the front. Obviously, it's not going to be activated through levers, but this is just for testing purposes. We can now kind of conduct how I want it to go. So first of all, the back bit's going to come forward, then the left side's going to come in, and it activates those pistons, and that can go back. And then the right side does the same thing, comes in, activates the pistons, goes back, and then the back bit moves away again. So I'm going to connect this all up to one lever, so I get all the timing sorted. And then I think we'll try this with an acacia tree, as that's got the off branches, so it's going to be the most awkward. Let's get that timing system in. I still need to pull the back away by turning off the lever, but everything else is running beautifully. Now, the redstone is going to move. So it's right underneath where the hoppers are going to be. I'm going to be moving it back there, but this was just so I could figure out what my timing system was going to be. And it does work. Let's put in an acacia tree because it's the one with awkward growth. Oh, it can go out 3 blocks. That might not work. I need to do a little bit of a redesign. The relevant changes have been made. I've had to expand these a bit and add a second machine to activate them. But looking at it now, everything goes into place nicely. Now, the thing is, when you're building a complicated machine and you have a good plan, turns out, if the plan is that good, it probably means you haven't thought everything through. I do need to be powering these pistons every time. I think I can actually do this pretty easily if I move these along and put some observers in, swap out all the slime and honey blocks, which also means swapping them out here because they have to alternate. I think I can make that work. So let me get that implemented. Well, I am now happy that this is working. I've changed this to be run by a flying machine round the back, which, as I said, seems to be working. So if we get an acacia tree up in place, then we can activate everything. And you can see it all works nicely. It takes a little bit of time to move back, but I'm okay with that. I can AFK here. It doesn't really matter as long as it's not ridiculously slow. And I can just keep going, add more acacia trees. And it all seems to work out nicely. So, the next thing for me to do is figure out what to do with these logs once they get to the end. So as you can see, we've got a little bit further. I'm starting to hit some of the more difficult sections. So first of all, this nice and simple. Once a tree comes along here, it detects the bottom block with that torch and everything gets pushed across. Of course, with acacia trees, we're going to have some stuff sticking out a bit further. I'm going to deal with those later. But for now, this works. It's going to push the trees along into this section, which I'm currently trying to figure out. The idea is each piston gets pushed out and then pushes the entire tree down one, because if I have a horizontal log stream, that's going to be easier for me to deal with. I have had an idea for what could be a good way to activate this from my redstone testing world. So I'm going to go get that, copy it over, and see if I can make that work. So what I've got here is a flying machine conveyor belt. So once I activate the top part, the flying machine gets pushed out 2 blocks and travels down. And then, once it hits the bottom, it gets pulled back 2 blocks and then proceeds to go back up. We can actually have 2 flying machines there and just have them constantly circulate each other. Unfortunately, a flying machine is just too fast for what I want, so I'm going back to the drawing board. So I realised that the problem with the flying machine wasn't the speed, but that every time it moved, it was activating both the observer that it was leaving and the one that it was going to. I want to be activating them one at a time. So what we have is this little toggle. Every time this line activates, this will turn on or off, and every time it does so, it pushes the blocks in front of these observers or retracts them. So let's see this in action. We've been experimenting with some spruce trees. I've also turned the game sounds down because lots of pistons. So they're all going to get pushed across and then to the side, and then we have these coming down, creating a block stream which I can now do things with. So that's that bit done. I think I'm going to work on the block stream first, and then we'll figure out what to do with the extra acacia logs. The paths are all set up now. So first of all, I did add the second set of logs for acacia trees. So they're going to come through to here. I've basically just done an exact repeat. I may as well treat it as a full tree. It doesn't harm anything. It makes it take a little bit longer, but I'm going to be doing overnight AFK sessions and stuff. This is fine. And then we have it come out into 2 3x3 sections, because we're going to be dealing with the logs with a couple of withers. I don't need to put them into this video. I know what I'm doing with the withers. I've used them before. Go back to my earlier video with the cobblestone farm and you'll see what I'm doing there. So for now, I'm just getting rid of them with command block. Yeah, just get rid of this area. So next, it's time to work on the computer. What's going to control this? So if I get rid of the leaves, I need to get all of the hoppers in place and start doing tree detection. Probably move this redstone out the way. The plan for timing, this all works on the same time limit. So what I will probably do is get everything activated once this bit of redstone goes off, because that's the last thing in the system. So for now, I'm going to get the hoppers in place and move some redstone out the way. Maybe get the tree detection in. Well, as you can see, hoppers have been put in place, and if I turn this thing on, because we now have an on switch, you will notice if I actually put a sapling down and not bone meal, we now have tree detection. So things are going very well. I now need to put in the system for when this whole thing turns off. And then we're going to be very close to being finished. So there are some newer things in place. First of all, we now have this dropper working, so when the farm is moving trees, this will be spitting out saplings, and then it's going to pick them up in this hopper afterwards, so you've got a chance to pick them up. We also have the bone meal working, so essentially this is now a fully formed farm, except for one thing which we'll be adding in a minute. Currently, there's nothing feeding into the bone meal, but the plan is we'll take a hopper line out here and probably just bring it out underneath everything. It's got to go under a bit of wool here. And then I've got a moss farm bone meal thing, so I can just add that on, give bone meal to the farm automatically. And then I need to add a lever to the side to put this into oak mode. which needs to do two things. First of all, we need to place a block, I think 8 blocks up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We need to get a block placed there, but obviously then that block can be moved. We need to make sure it can't be moved, and the easiest way to do that, if I come out to this set of pistons and we activate that one, while trying not to activate the rest of the redstone, then of course those can't be moved because there's a piston head there. So I've just got to connect those up to a lever, and then we can see this thing in action. Oak mode. Regular mode. Well, I think this thing is ready for a full test. And that is it. This is the finished farm, kind of. We need to add the bone meal module, we need to add the wither cages, we need to add storage. That's all simple stuff. This is the actual farm itself. I have cleared out all the logs, just so I could take a schematic and find out what resources are needed, which we have down here. They almost fit into a double chest, but not quite. So, what do we need? Well, we need 4 blocks of redstone, a dirt, a dispenser, 5 droppers, 2 carpet. I like grey carpet for this. 164 glass. Again, I like grey stained glass. It kind of fits in with the other builds I've done in this area. 176 honey blocks, 85 hoppers, 2 levers, 27 note blocks, 190 observers, 132 obsidian, 143 pistons, 685 blocks. I like polished andesite for this stuff. 2 slabs, 2 stairs, again polished andesite for me. 6 redstone comparators, 564 redstone dust, 12 redstone lamps, 88 redstone repeaters, 40 redstone torches, 202 slime blocks, 1 spruce trapdoor, again could be any trapdoor, 228 sticky pistons, and 2 targets. Now, obviously this is a slightly different MineWreckers episode. I do plan on making some redstone videos in the future, which are going to be separate from the MineWreckers series. But if you want to see more of me making this stuff, normally much weirder, wackier things, I do my redstone streams. These are every Saturday, 7 PM till 10 PM UK time, though not on the day of the release, because I'm going to be at a Christmas party. But in the meantime, that is everything. So, if you did enjoy this, please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. My name is Weird and Bearded. This is a tree farm, and I will see you all next time.